Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Welcome guys to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast, and oh boy, do I have a guest for you today. I am super excited for this person. His name is Herb Cogliano. He leads his own advisory practice leveraging scaling up performance platform described in Verne Harnish's award-winning book, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits Scaling Up. As a business coach now, he has experienced CEO scaling up practitioner and professor of the Scaling Up Masters business course. He has learned firsthand what it takes to overcome many different business challenges, and Herb is pursuing his passion of working with leaders of growth companies to achieve more freedom by helping them create industry-leading strategies, a culture of accountability, flawless execution, along with a healthy cash flow within their organization. Oh my goodness, Herb, I am super excited to have you here. I've got so many questions already.
Well, you know what? It is a pleasure to be on the show. I look forward to hopefully sharing my journey and some insights of lessons learned that can help other people the way so many wonderful people help me. And thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Oh my goodness. Like, you're saying that you want to help people, give value already, and we haven't even started. Like, I feel like this conversation can be going on forever, right? Like, there's so much to talk about regards to business. But before we do, I would love for you to give the audience a little bit of taste, flavor as to what your journey was like, right? Because building a business doesn't happen at the click of a finger. It doesn't happen overnight. We know this, right? There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go behind it. And so what did that journey look like for you?
Yeah, thank you. So I was very grateful that I grew up in a family business, and our business was helping people get jobs. And my father earlier in his career got laid off and felt the stigma of what it was like to be unemployed, taking care of a wife, children, having a disability. He was legally deaf in one of his ears, but he chose to be in employment because he felt like meaningful employment for anyone that wants to contribute to their family and to the community should be available, but not everybody could find a job easily. So we started an employment agency. My family, my mother, my father, my siblings, it started to grow and flourish. And I remember as a young boy at the kitchen table, my father would come home and share stories about challenges, but also ways we help people find the next employment. And that always had an impact on me, helping the underdog, the person that maybe didn't know everything they needed to know, but had so many things that they could still contribute that we could all benefit from in the community. And so that's where I kind of grew up, understanding business, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then ultimately went to school. And not many people know what they were meant to do, but I immediately had this recognition that I was going to be an entrepreneur and help others by bringing and unleashing their potential the way we did through employment.
Do you know what? I love that story because it's very unique and different, right? Because your dad, you grew up, right, with your dad and building his business and became a family-run business, but he had this idea about employment and helping other people not build a business, but get into employment, yes, right? And built a business around that, which is very unique and very different. You don't hear much about how that comes about, right? And so, all right, so you helped people go into employment. What was it about seeing your dad, your family build this business, scale it up, that you kind of was like, you know what? I need to build a business for myself?
Yeah. Thank you, Kay. That was really kind of a turning point in my career. It was around 1993.
Oh, wow.
I'd been working full time for about 5 or 6 years. And I always had that question, being second generation, could I do it? Could I
Ah,
start a business from zero and really be successful? And I never wanted to look back and wonder 30 years into my career, I wish I did it, but I never did. But when I was working in the business, I found like early 90s, Microsoft had all these applications, Word, Excel, PowerPoint.
mhm.
None of us had that in school back in the early 90s. And employers were asking me for more and more people that could do it.
Oh,
So I said, we're all about unleashing people, their potential. What if we can open a school to train adults computer application skills to go with their experience and their functional skill and make them a more complete employee, more marketable,
ah,
higher pay? And there was the genesis of me starting my first company. I was 28 years old and had an amazing experience, put a small ad in the paper, learned computers in 2 weeks, and the phone started to ring off the hook.
wow.
I had 10 computers, 500 square feet, and a part-time teacher.
Wow.
And so that was a really exciting part for me as an entrepreneur, because as you know, you don't always get it right. You kind of have to iterate, but that was really special. And at that point, I knew I'd have my feet under me, and I worked with an amazing group of people to birth that business. And it was very complementary to the employment business. So there was good benefits for them to support each other. And that's how I got into doing things entrepreneurially on my own.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm curious now, is that business still running? Does your dad
It
still
is.
have it?
It is not that business. The employment business was about 54 years. The education business was 25 years, and we exited the businesses in around 2018.
Ah, okay, okay, awesome. That is a great story right there, hearing your journey, right?
Yeah,
Very
thank
different
you.
to a lot of people out there for sure. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty, Herb, right? Actual business and what business looks like today, right? Because it's very different to what it looked like 20 years ago. All right. And so I guess one of the first questions that really comes to my mind is it's changed so much. How do business owners keep up with all the changes that's going on?
Yeah. I, in looking at scaling up, which is referenced by the book with Verne Harnish,
Hmm.
the one thing that I learned was during our journey, we got stuck. We
Okay.
weren't growing the way we thought we should be growing. We were smart people. We were hardworking, but we didn't know what we didn't know. And every stage of growth has a different level of complexity, and that some companies get stuck, as you may have experienced, Kay, with some of your clients. They're a $1 million client, 5 million, 50 million, and they may plateau there for many years.
Right.
Some will break through, some may never. But what I learned was that there was 4 important decisions in addition to being smart that you needed to get right. Number 1 were the people decisions in your business. Were all the stakeholders actively engaged? And knowing what you know today about them, would you enthusiastically rehire all of them? Employees, clients, suppliers, even your fellow partner in the firm? And what I learned when I asked that question, the majority of business owners say, I would not enthusiastically rehire every one of the people that I have working for me. And when I first did it, mine was about a 38% of the people I would enthusiastically rehire. This is one division that I started this scaling up method in.
Right.
I had about 25 employees. They were good people, but they weren't all A players in the beginning.
Oh.
The second decision we have to get right is strategy. Is your strategy simple, and is it driving industry-leading top-line growth and gross margin? For example, if your industry is growing 8%, scaling up companies minimally want strategy where we'll double industry growth rate or more. And I find a lot of owners understand what clients value, but they don't know what makes them distinctive from the competition, therefore becoming commoditized, therefore lowering your margin. Third thing we learned was execution. You could work 100 hours a week, have great growing revenue, but have a zero bottom line. So are you executing repeatedly at a high level of flawless results, driving an industry operating profit bottom line? And I find a lot of people do not have industry-leading operating profits, and you need to deal with those issues in labor, in overhead, staff utilization, all those great things. And the final decision we needed to get right was cash.
Yes.
Do you have, because growth sucks cash.
Yeah.
And do you have enough internally generated cash, not having to go to a bank, because you have such good margins that you can self-fund your internal perpetual growth? And most people do not. So when we started asking the right questions about these 4 areas, and then using the proper tool to solve each one, the business started to grow dramatically. Top line, margin, bottom line. And Kate, one of the things we're most proud of with our team, we were recognized multiple years in a row as an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company and the best places to work. And what that told us is that we could do financially well and good by the communities we served. And that was, for us, the ideal business that we wanted to be a part of.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I've already got so many questions to ask you with everything you just said there. That was absolute gold. Thank you for sharing that, Herb.
You're welcome.
Now, you mentioned initially, you got to look at who your team are, right? They're not all going to be
Yes.
players. Now, one of the questions that I get asked a lot, right? Oh, there's a lot of challenges around this is, all right, how do you go and find those right, team members, right? Where do you go look? How do you train them up? Like, how do you build the motivation? There's so many questions around getting the right people. Where are they? So how would you go about, what is the process that you use, should I ask, to find those A players?
Well, in the beginning, it wasn't good enough. I can tell you that the process was not good enough. But I will tell you the elements of the journey. First and foremost, do you have a good job scorecard? Not a job description, but a scorecard thinks about the mission of the role. Where does that role need to get me 3 years in the future from today? So if I want to hire a sales manager, there's a lot of people with that title, but is the mission of that job to open a new territory, to grow a sales team, to do a new product rollout? There's very different missions, even though you have the same title, and not every sales manager would be good at all of those missions.
Okay.
So we first need to understand the role or the mission for that position. We then need to define the accountabilities. We want to grow 20% year over year. We want an 80% A player sales team rating. We want margins of 35% or better. We want market penetration of 20% or higher. Those are specific measurable accountabilities that you don't see on a quote job description.
Right.
And the third part is competencies, technical and professional competencies, soft skills, particular software, experience specific to an industry or project. And I think part of the competencies are your core values, Kay. You can be first in your class at Harvard, but not be a fun person to work with.
Right. Right.
So we clarified what our values were that we were willing to work together with, behave, something we were proud of, something we lived towards, and we hired people that shared the same values as us. And the drama in the company went down dramatically because of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So when it comes to, I get cultivating the team, right? Building that culture. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of effort and work to build the culture that you want it, right? And it comes from the top. We all know it stems from the top.
Yes.
And so what does that look like as to making sure that your team are happy, but they're still working, they're motivated, and still providing the results that you need as a company together and just flourishing? What does that look like? How does that all work and come together?
Yeah, so good leaders repeat things. If you think of your childhood, mom and dad probably repeated a couple of sayings over and over. I don't know about you, but there was a time when I said I would never say what my mom and dad say. And then next thing you know, as an adult, I'm finding I'm repeating it all the time. It just kind of sinks in.
Right, okay.
The way you treat people, your values, your upbringing, it's like that for a great leader. So there's several things that were key to a great culture. Number one, we talked about our values every day as we were recognizing an employee doing well, or we were giving constructive feedback. So I could say, Kay, that work on your last client podcast, that was amazing work. It was innovative, and the innovation allowed that client to be positioned in such a great way. You made us look super. Thank you. That's our value of innovation. Keep living it. So we didn't just give attaboys.
Right.
Our attaboys were value specific. And if you hear that over and over, day in and day out, year in and year out, guess what happens? Your employees start to use it with each other. And then they start to use it with your customers and your suppliers.
Oh, I see.
Second thing is your purpose. I repeat all the time. Meaningful employment, meaningful employment. What does that mean to you? Here's what it means to me. Let me show you a client case study, a report we just did about a great client and their purpose delivered. Third thing is our BHAG. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal?
Okay.
And one of ours was to successfully graduate and get jobs for 18,000 students during our 25-year journey.
Wow.
And when people got their mind around the size and the impact of that goal together, that was really galvanizing for all of us. And the final thing was have a few big priorities for your company every quarter and keep repeating them over and over so your people don't get distracted, shiny objects, and you keep them top of mind.
Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Herb, like you're constantly giving these golden nuggets. This is awesome. And I've got to ask, I'm going to be shifting this conversation a little bit. I have to ask this, right? Because everybody is talking about it. How do you, or what are your thoughts regards to business implementing AI as part of the strategies and processes?
Yeah, you have to do it. You have to do it. I think any business owner or leader who is not experimenting with AI right now will be left behind. I
Yeah.
don't think it necessarily has to, quote, take jobs. It may reshape the type of jobs that we're doing.
Ah, okay. I
So if
think a lot of people are in this fear mindset, right? Like robots and AI is going to take over anything. Humans aren't going to be needed. We're going to be all left out of a job. And so you've got a very different point to this. It's
yeah,
meant to enhance it, not take
yes,
us away completely. Where did that
yeah.
come out? What's the thinking there?
Well, AI is very good with data. I'll give you an example. If you were doing a marketing research project and you wanted to really identify what your clients value and what's different about your company, let's say you do customer surveys every day, and let's say you have a year, 2, 3 years worth of customer feedback data. I can take that data, scrape off the client name, load it into ChatGPT, and I can ask it, going through all the reams of data, what are the top 3 sentiments of why our favorite clients work with our company? What are the KPIs that I would simply use to measure it? And
Mhm.
what would the marketing message be supporting the type of pain or challenges that they would be having in order to need these promises as a prospect or a client? I've put
Ah,
that in AI and I have gotten remarkable, direct, laser focused feedback in 5 minutes or less.
wow.
So if you're looking to do that and get that precise insight because you have a lot of data, the tool is an amazing tool.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm all about AI. I do a lot of things in Web3 and taking podcasting in that direction as well. So I'm all for what you're saying, right? We got to get on the bandwagon because it's not going anywhere and businesses will get left behind if you don't, right? And so
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying now. AI is great for marketing, right? But
yeah,
what does it mean for the internal part of the business, right? For hiring, for putting processes and systems in place. Do you think there's a space for AI in regards to that right now?
well, like for example, if you're looking to hire a person in a role that you haven't hired before, you can ask AI to help you create the job scorecard.
Right.
You can ask it, what are the top KPIs for an operations manager in the furniture industry?
Okay.
And it
Yes.
will come back. And the one thing I want to say about AI today, I can't tell you 3 years from now, but
Mhm.
Kay, AI is very directionally correct. It doesn't mean it's 100% positively correct. So if you look at directionally correct, getting you 80% of the way for a
Right.
project
Mhm.
in an incredibly short period of time, and you do the final mile yourself, you wouldn't believe how much more effective your work and your productivity will be.
Okay. Now, again, I totally agree with you there, right? Now, it's not 100% accurate, and I think people are
Correct.
relying way too much on AI, and people are noticing. You can tell when a human's written it,
Yes.
a robot's written it, and so we still need to humanize it. We still need
Yes.
to humanize marketing and the content we put out there. And so when it comes to humanizing things and making sure that it's still coming from your voice, What kind of advice would you give to business owners there? Especially with, I hear again, don't have time to do all that, right? You're building a business at the moment, you're a startup and you're wearing all the hats in your business. What would you suggest to that person?
So I know they have a free version and they have a paid version of ChatGPT. I know in the paid version that you can put in your own profile.
Yeah.
Your profile gives a lot of particular personalized specifics about you, your background, your personality style. And the more I've added the uniqueness of me into my profile of AI, the more that generates out in the responses it gives me.
Right.
So that is one way to help you get a little bit more personal. I also think as a leader, what's interesting, some people can be very matter of fact.
Yeah.
And that just may be their personality. But sometimes when you're giving a company message, you want to have a little bit more humor, maybe a little bit more light.
Yeah.
And AI can help you with that.
Right. Oh,
you can
yeah.
say, write the message with, items A, B, and C. Help me put a little bit more humor and see what that would sound like. And then I can edit from there. So I think the personalization is the more comfortable I've gotten with the functionality of the prompts, the more personal I make it. And I think that's part of the evolution using the tool journey.
Definitely. I mean, some of the things that I get feedback from my clients when I introduce them to ChatGTP, right? They're like, "Oh, I don't know about this. Like, oh, this is so different. We never had that back in my day, right?" And all of this, and they go into it and just start messing around with it. And that's what you really need to do in the beginning, right? Just start using it, messing around with it, and they end up loving it because all of a sudden it's producing all this stuff for them that it would have taken them days, maybe weeks to do if they were doing it all themselves.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so it is about just getting out there, getting started, going with it. It doesn't have to be perfect in the beginning, but just learning that this is the way forward. Right. And it's exciting. It's super exciting.
Yeah.
Now, in your experience, and you've done this for a long time, you've been in business for a long time, you have several clients all over, different challenges. What would you say are the top 5 challenges that you hear and see time and time again when people are building and scaling the business?
Yeah, so the first one deals with leadership and leadership succession. You're the owner of your company. You've built a business. You're obviously very good. And yet everyone keeps coming to you for all the answers. And because of that, you haven't built that next layer of senior leadership that you can delegate, you can give authority, autonomy, allowing you to spend more time working on the company versus what happens is you're sucked in working in it.
Right.
So that is one of the biggest barriers I face with my clients that truly want to scale is their ability to let go and attract, hire, and retain a senior level type leader in their company.
Okay.
The second thing that happens is that scalable infrastructure. As your company goes from 3, 5, 50, 500 employees,
right,
your org structure needs to change because one of the things that stops you is the complexity with communication and decision-making with the org structure because you have more employees, more clients, more products, more locations, and people don't know how to navigate that org structure transition. And the third thing is marketing and marketing dynamics. You start a company, you read the market, you have great client traction, you start to grow. Next thing you know, you're on the radar of your competition. More people start to enter, more competitive pricing. Your margins start to go down. But you're like a deer in headlights because I don't want to change anything. It was working so good. And so you get paralyzed and you don't move to the next level or version of products and product valuation that you need to. And so therefore you start to decline, you plateau, and then you start to shrink. COVID was unfortunately one of the most pronounced examples of market shifts. And yet there's great stories of people who navigated it tremendously. And yet there's stories of people who did not change or change quick enough that had a very different experience. So a leader's ability to navigate changing market dynamics with updated strategy is one of the third and biggest barriers why we don't grow.
Wow. Okay. You've already given us so much, Herb, right? Like this, and there's so much more involved in this, right? This is awesome. I'm loving this. Now, I know at this point, Herb, people are like, oh my goodness, Herb is awesome. I need to get in contact with him and I need him to help my business. So where can people go to connect with you?
Yeah, thank you, Kay. Simply go to my website, aspiregrowthadvisors.com. If you want to take advantage of a free business scaling up readiness assessment, do you know your current gaps to growing to the next level? You're welcome to do that, complimentary. And I also have an assessment for leaders. If you want to see what your gaps are to being a high impact leader, we also have a free scorecard there in a report helping leaders unlock the high impact leader from within, their transformational potential. So please take advantage of that. And I'm happy to help any of your listeners that would like to talk further.
Oh my goodness, that is so generous of you, Herb. Like, guys, you need to go and check out Herb's website, right? Go and download those freebies. Go and take a look at them, check them out, implement them in your business. And if you need more support, go and speak with Herb. Connect with him. Do it right now. Herb, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And before we end, do you have any last words for our listeners?
I think I want the business owner to have the business suit them. I don't want the business owning the business owner.
Right.
You deserve the business of your dreams, and scaling up methodology helped me finally see the roadmap for me to do that.
I love it. I love it. Thank you once again, Herb. And guys, again, go and reach out and connect with Herb. He is
Thank
awesome.
you.
No worries.
Thank
you for joining us, and thank you for all the golden nuggets. They were awesome. Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much. And I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.